Today, my friends, we're looking at one of the best moves that Panerai ever did, something special. A diver which in time became a tool, and then a dress watch. I bought this Radiomir Quaranta from Chronext, imagine. I went to visit my friends from Albini Prasa, they are Chronext representatives, and while waiting for my friend I was like, let's visit the Chronext room to see what's new. And there I saw it. I said to myself, yeah, it's probably very expensive, but when I checked the price, the deal was very good. So this was a purchase by accident. To give an example, I was chasing to buy myself a Radiomir in 44mm for a long time, but so far it didn't click. Every time I was checking online for models, I wasn't convinced by the designs or the size versus the effort to pay the price asked. However, because I had a chance to see it in flesh, the dynamic changed completely. The price was very good, so I couldn't live without it. Nicely to point out, although this was a pre-owned watch, it didn't give me the feeling of a previously used watch. I felt it completely brand new, especially because Chronext added a brand new alligator strap to it. So quite an exciting buying experience. I think the packaging overall was pretty good with an extra strap, so yeah, I couldn't resist. Panerai was born out of a Rolex pocket watch. This was adapted later on with wear lugs, hence the reference 2533. This oversized pocket watch with wear lugs sat as a diving proposal for the Regia Marina, which was the first navy in the world to use divers as instruments because the 2533 had waterproof capabilities. And the final submission for the Italian Royal Navy was indeed the Rolex 2533, made from gold in stainless steel but with dials provided by Panerai, reworked to be made legible underwater with big numerals painted in radium to glow in the dark. The rest is history. Across time, the simplicity of Panerai has become recognizable through its imposing cardinal numerals, the sandwich dial or its small seconds, but later on through its iconic luminor case with the crown guard, but also through its consistent lumed solution, the brand switching from the radium paint to the lesser highly radioactive tritium solution. So the origins of Panerai sizing started at 47mm as diving instruments. It became commercially relevant as 45mm in the 90s with the help of Sly as well, losing from its interest slowly while the downsizing trend appeared. And for the brand going onwards was either to follow their path with bold, oversized statement watches or to switch some of their collections in smaller sizes to make more sense. And for sure it makes more sense. If the Luminor with its monolithic case and its imposing crown guard needs to sit somewhere at 45mm to capture the ideal presence, the Radiomir having a lesser masculine shape and an open dial, it didn't make sense to remain at 44 or 47mm exclusively, although I love these 1-to-1 versions. So when I've seen the watch live at Albini Prasa, still being convinced that a Panerai needs to be at least 45mm to be a Panerai, for this Radiomir Quaranta, it made all the sense in the world to be in this size. If we reduce it to simple things, the pillow shape of the Radiomir with the old Polish case with wires attached as design makes more sense on a smaller size, because it can relate to other genres of watches from the actual landscape of offerings. To give you an example, I do not perceive the Radiomir Quaranta as a field watch as Houdinki sees and compares it. I don't see it like the competition for the Tudor Ranger, although has similarities. I see it more like a dressy lifestyle watch than a tool, like a relaxed, refined GADA closer to Santos de Cartier or Piaget Andy Warhol than as a mountaineering watch. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, as I'm trying through my shootings to best represent the feeling of this Quaranta. As initial thoughts, based on my experience, I can say that the watch is impressive. This is the Radiomir Quaranta, which measures 40mm with the reference PAM01572, released in 2023. So I showed this Quaranta to my friends, people with years of experience in collecting, and they were like, wow, so it's not just me as a subjective owner of the watch. Apparently, perceptually in this size, shape and height, this design is simply relevant. The reduced iconic dial with the sandwich and the discrete sunburst sends it totally into a new direction and makes it wearable without an excuse. And as designed, this new Quaranta model is pretty representative for the Radiomir DNA, has nice creamy patina lume, has rose gold hands, has the iconic sandwich dial, the small second sub-dial, but it doesn't have an open case back, which is a pity. Alright, so the iconic pillowcase, as I like to call it, is entirely polished. I have to mention this is my first watch with wear lugs. And I like how the corners are creating the feeling of depth. It provides a clear architecture of how the case is thinner on the corners, becoming thicker towards the middle, being exceeded by the polished bezel. It's just a simple design and very effective. Also, from the profile we can preview how cool the case is sculpted and how thin it is. Although has 10.5mm, it feels thinner than that on the wrist. The crown is equally nice, nicely sculpted, half an onion, which definitely sends us back into the 20s, signed with the PAM logo. And I like how they kept the screw-in thread outside of the case as Rolex does, so it's easier to be serviced compared to the vast majority of the watches which have the screw-in threads inside of the case. The dial must be the star of the show, and its size feels to be about right for a 40mm case. And if the pillowcase, because it's isolated, doesn't offer enough presence on the wrist, the dial is balancing it very well. I think the dial is balanced enough to contain not more than needed, having only the labels Radiomir Panerai on the top. The surface finish of the watch is of a sandblast but deceiving, in the sense that I cannot define exactly how it is except for being reactive to the light, becoming deep black or grey when exposed to the light. Even sunburst, because it borrows colors from the rose gold coated hands, so it's light dependable. The mystery happens because of the non-coated crystal, which doesn't allow you to assess the details properly, and it's quite a struggle to shoot this watch too. It truly feels like a glass above the dial. However, I do appreciate how the crystal is executed when angled, while other Panerais have that magnifier glass effect. So, to add a premium look to the Quaranta line, Panerai added a contrast of a burnt tritium tone which works brilliantly with the rose gold coated hands against the dial. I think the contrasts are well distributed, even the date being carefully toned to match the patina of the overall dial. The lume is typical for Panerai, as in good or iconic already. I always liked how they distributed the meaning of each element so they can be distinguished perfectly on low light conditions. The hour hand is distinct, the small seconds is visible against its markers, but also the 3 o'clock marker is added to obtain symmetry within the dial. Nice, beautiful Italian design, like. Strangely, although this watch was reduced from 44mm to 40mm, imagine the strap width is the same, having 24mm at the top, tapering down to 18mm. However, because I didn't have any 24mm straps with severe taper, I tried the 22mm ones and surprised it works extremely good. You can't see any major difference or the watch being unbalanced. I think it simply looks good. And because this watch comes on a black alligator strap, it makes the watch more dressy. However, on a canvas or on a brown leather strap, the watch becomes even more wearable and practical. I do have to point out the beautiful quality of the strap, but mostly the buckle solution, which emulates the concept of the wire lugs, which is also signed with Panerai. But the conclusion is you don't have to wear it on a 24mm strap, it equally works very well on 22. Now, when it comes to Panerai movements, things are getting sensitive, you know. They were previously exposed with all sorts of off-the-shelf ETAs modified and called in-house. But in the case of this caliber, it feels legit. Inside of this thin case, we have a self-winding 4mm P900 caliber. This is basically the Baumatic caliber from Baume Mercier, but instead of 5 days has 3 days. This is basically Richemond's very own ETA automatic movement. So that's pretty much it. If you ever consider to buy yourself a Panerai or a Radiomir, I think this needs to be taken into consideration because it's very good. And I see it relevant for different purposes, from a dress watch to a practical everyday go anywhere do anything watch with a lot of design meaning behind. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and if you're new around, please consider subscribing for future episodes. Thank you very much, thanks for watching, and until next time, be brave and stay safe.